today's class in today's class we will discuss about plastics farming techniques. What I said, plastics farming techniques. So our chapter is plastics processing. In the plastics processing, okay, in our earlier classes we have discussed about what are the various process techniques. Okay, so like transfer molding, injection molding, blow molding, etc. So these are all the process techniques for plastics processing. In addition to process techniques, there are also farming techniques. There are also farming techniques to process the plastics into the required shape and size so that it is suitable for the industrial need. Okay, so coming back to plastics farming techniques, that means farming technique will be applied on the plastics. Plastic may be a thermoplastic or thermosetting plastic. Okay, so these techniques will be highly useful for converting the given plastic product or plastic raw material into a useful end product. Okay, so let us see what are those plastics farming techniques. The first one is extrusion. First one is extrusion. So extrusion is a farming technique with reference to plastics processing. Okay, so let us see what is exactly the extrusion is and how how it is performed, and with the help of this extrusion technique, how the plastics are being converted into desired products. So let us have a deep understanding towards extrusion. Okay, coming back to extrusion, extrusion is nothing but continuous forming of plastic articles, continuous forming of plastic articles by softening the plastic materials, through heat through heat and through a subsequently forcing the soft plastic through a die orifice, through a die orifice. Okay, so here what is the process the plastic material is undergoing is extrusion is nothing but a continuous forming of plastic articles, continuous forming of plastic articles by softening the plastic material, by softening the plastic material through heat. When the given plastic material will be softened, if you supply the heat to the given plastic material, then it will get softened. Okay, that means it will lose its hardness and automatically it will get softened. Okay, so that is possible by continuously applying the heat onto the plastics. Okay, then these soft plastic is to be forced through a die orifice, through a die orifice, through a die orifice. So here in the extrusion process, broadly speaking, there will be a die, okay, of very long and maybe a circular cross section die, generally a circular cross section die of very long length is used, and at the end, at the one end of the die, a small orifice is made. Orifice in the sense a small hole is made. Why the small hole is made? This softened plastic will be forced into the this will be forced into the through this small hole. Okay, by forcing the soft plastic through a die orifice, what will happen? The extruded part is coming out. The what will happen by forcing the what I mean to say is that by forcing the softened plastic through a die orifice, the extruded part is hardened by cooling welding. Okay, which passing on a conveyor, then the length can be cut as desired. Then the length can be cut as desired. So here I repeat, for better understanding of this extrusion process, for better understanding of extrusion process, I repeat, it is a continuous forming of a plastic particles by softening the plastic material through heat and subsequent forcing the soft plastic through a die orifice. Okay, so that the extruded part, the part which is coming out from the small hole, or the part which is coming out from the this orifice is hardened. How it is hardened? It is hardened by cooling. They are done by cooling. Okay. Which pa- which passing on a conveyor, it will be passing on a conveyor. Okay. Then the cooled, what I meant to say, the cooled plastic, uh, by conveying it through the, by passing it through, by, by passing it through the conveyor, what will happen? So then we will have a scope so that the length can be cut as desired. So here our end product has come out with the extrusion process. Okay. So whatever the length is required, whatever the length is required as per our the industry, as per the industry need, up to the up to that length, the product is can be cut. Okay. And this is how the exact extrusion will take place for plastics farming. So in plastics farming, in plastics farming, extrusion is one of the techniques which will be used to convert the given raw material or raw plastic into the finished or required plastic as per the industrial needs. So in this process, what the phenomenon takes place is, simply extrusion is nothing but the continuous forming of plastic articles by softening the plastic material through heat and subsequent forcing the soft plastic, through a die orifice. Okay. Then after forcing the softened plastic through a die hole or die orifice, orifice is nothing but a small hole, then some of the plastic will come out. That portion is known as the extruded portion of the plastic. Okay. So in that extruded portion of the plastic, what will happen? And then it will be hardened. That extruded part will be hardened by cooling. Okay. So after hardening the plastics, after hardening the plastic, the extruded part, then it will be allowed, to pass on to a conveyor. It will be allowed to pass on to a conveyor. Then the length of our desired uh, industrial requirement is cut. Okay, so this is how extrusion process will be taken place. Okay, so again I am repeating, extrusion is nothing but the plastics farming technique. Plastics farming technique. So again in this extrusion process, raw materials used in extrusion. What are the raw materials used in extrusion? This may be a question. So raw materials are polyethylene and polystyrene polystyrene rods, tube tube strips, and foams of uniform cross section then okay, so then this are the raw materials required for performing the extrusion process with reference to the plastics processing. Okay, so then what is the advantage of this extrusion? So extrusion it will give us high output rate. High output rate is possible in extrusion. That means so many strips of plastics can be produced within a short span of time by the farming technique called extrusion. Okay, are you getting my point? So this is all about the one of the plastics farming techniques, that is extrusion. Okay, and I want to give few more things about extrusion. The products can be extruded in wider range of colors offered by thermoplastics. Okay, so in the extrusion process, the output product will be in different colors. That means here what we are saying is that the products can be extruded in wider range of colors offered by thermoplastics. సో థర్మోప్లాస్టిక్స్ను ఉపయోగించి మనము ఎక్స్ట్రూజన్ అనే ప్రాసెస్ని కనుక మనం ఆపరేట్ చేస్తే then the final product that is coming out from the die orifice will have different colors, wider range of colors. This is one more advantage with reference to the extrusion. Okay, then in the extrusion process, or you can say extrusion is a forming technique of plastics. In this forming technique of extrusion, the surface finishes appreciably good surface finish we will get by the extrusion process. Okay, and also after performing the extrusion, what you can say, after performing the extrusion technique on the plastics, finally you the end product does not require much finishing operations. That means whatever the end product that is coming out with the forming technique called extrusion, that end product does not require much or you can say that the end product does not require costly finishing operations. So whatever the end product that is coming through the die orifice, it does not require costly finishing operations. Okay, so it implies that the the plastic, the extruded part which has come out of the die orifice, the extruded part which has come out of the die orifice has itself a good surface finish, so that it doesn't require costly finishing operations. Okay, so this is all a brief description, if explanation about extrusion, which is a plastic forming technique. The plastics forming technique. Okay, so again in this extrusion I want to say few more lines. Okay, as you know, extrusion, the word extrusion, if you see the dictionary meaning of the word extrusion, it is nothing but the, if you see the dictionary meaning of the word extrusion, it is nothing but the this pulling off the product from one end. Okay, so in this way extrusion also has the similar procedure of forcing the softened plastic material into the die orifice. Okay, through the die orifice, then whatever the plastic that has been coming out through the die orifice, that is known as extruded part. extruded part. So this extruded part will be allowed to pass onto the conveyor so that it can be cut into different shapes as per our desired needs. Okay, so this is a brief analysis about extrusion with reference to plastics farming. So in this class we are all studying about the plastics farming techniques. In our previous class, we discussed in our previous class we discussed about the plastics processing techniques. Okay, but here in today's class we are discussing about the plastics farming techniques. See, you will be able to find the difference. The difference is previous class is about the plastics processing techniques, and today's class is about the plastics farming techniques. Processing techniques is different from the farming techniques. In 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 processing techniques of plastics, you will come across various molding processes like injection mold, blow mold. Okay, so various molds like this you will come across in the process techniques. But whereas in farming techniques, you will have two or three farming techniques only. The most important farming techniques is extrusion, that we have discussed briefly how this extrusion will be performed or will be processed, and in which manner the plastic will be converted into useful product by using the farming technique called extrusion. Okay, again coming back to this advantages of extrusion, I have told you that this extrusion process will give us high output rate. High output rate is possible in extrusion technique. In extrusion technique, high output rate is possible. Okay, then few more advantages I also have explained. Those are the products can be extruded in wider range of colors offered by thermoplastics. So whatever the extruded products that are coming out from the die orifice, by using the thermoplastics, by using the thermoplastics, we can have a variety of variety of colors on the end product. Okay, so this is one more feature of the extrusion. And coming switching over to another advantage of extrusion process is the surface finish of the extruded part. The surface finish of the extruded part is good. So that means, as I said, the surface finish of the extruded part is good. It implies that the extruded part does not require costly finishing operations. Okay, because already in the extrusion process itself, the end product which is coming out from the extrusion technique through the die orifice is having a good surface finish. Since the end product is having the good surface finish, again what is the need to go for the costly finishing operations? So there is no question of going for the costly finishing operations. Okay, this is one more advantage of the what you can say extrusion technique. Okay, so this extrusion is a plastics forming technique. This is the most important technique which will definitely appear in the end examination for 5 marks question. That means in part C you will find this extrusion. Okay, then you have to, the question may be like this: how will you produce a plastic product by extrusion technique? This is the question. I am repeating the question: how will you produce the plastic product by extrusion technique? So this is a question. For this question you have to write the answer whatever I have explained up to now. Okay, so that is the one of the most important this topic we have discussed as of now. Okay, then we will switch over to another plastics forming technique, that is known as sheet forming. Okay, so here in sheet forming I will give you what is sheet forming and how it will be conducted on the plastics. Okay, so sheet forming, it is one of the most important fabrication process. Sheet farming is one of the most important fabrication process. So generally sheet farming is a fabrication process. Okay. The process this process consists of heating the sheet, then the heat softened the sheet is forced cold mold against a cold mold so that it takes the form of that mold. Okay. Variation various various farming methods such as vacuum farming, and pressure farming are mostly used for producing hollowed objects. Hollowed objects. Okay. So here we'll have one more plastics farming technique, that is known as the sheet, that is known as sheet farming. Sheet farming is one of the most important fabrication process. Sheet farming is nothing but the fabrication process. So this process consists of heating the sheet, and then after heating the sheet, what will happen? The sheet will get softened. Softness will come into the sheet. It will have the softness by providing the heat for a given sheet. Okay. That softened sheet is forced against a cold mold. So that softened sheet, whatever it is there, okay, by applying the heat, it is forced against a mold. That mold is very cold. Okay. So that this sheet will take the shape of that mold. Okay. That is known as the sheet farming. That means in the sheet farming technique, what will happen? We will apply a required amount of heat onto a plastic sheet, then this plastic sheet will get softened, then after ensuring that the plastic sheet has been softened, then we will force that softened sheet. What we will do? We will force that softened sheet into the mold. That mold is generally is in cold condition. That is in cold, severely cold condition. Thereby what will happen, that sheet, thereby what will happen, the sheet, what will happen, sheet will what will happen, sheet will uh, take the shape of that mold. Okay, so this is nothing but the sheet farming. Okay, so this is one more uh, farming technique, plastic farming technique, to get the desired object from the plastics. Okay, so apart from this these two farming techniques, what are these two farming techniques? First one is extrusion, the second one is sheet farming. Apart from these two farming techniques, extrusion and sheet farming, there are another two more farming techniques are there. One is vacuum farming and air pressure farming. Vacuum farming and air pressure farming, these techniques are vacuum farming and air pressure farming. These two farming techniques are widely used for producing such type of articles which will have hollowed objects, that means hollowed objects, that means if you want to produce a hollowed these objects, what objects will be covered under, hollowed objects, means a bowl, or you can say with the help of plastics, you can say plastic tub, or you can say plastic hollowed, means you can say plastic, you can say carrier. So like this, hollowed objects will be produced with the help of the farming techniques like vacuum farming and air pressure farming. Vacuum farming and air pressure farming. Okay, so this is all about I want to say in today's class regarding plastics farming techniques. Okay, first one is in the plastics farming techniques, the first and most important farming technique is extrusion, which I have given a brief explanation how the extrusion will be conducted onto the plastic materials. Then another technique is sheet farming. Okay, so in the sheet farming, the plastic material or plastic sheet will be taking the shape of the mold. Okay, then we have another two more plastic farming techniques such as you can say air pressure farming and vacuum farming. These two techniques, air pressure farming and vacuum farming, are used only for producing the hollowed objects. Okay, so this is all about the plastics farming methods or plastics farming techniques. Okay, thank you.